Hey guys, welcome to the Buck Brief. On this episode, we've got our friend John Cardillo back in the mix. He is formerly of the NYPD. He's a conservative commentator. He's an entrepreneur. John, let's dive right into it. You, if I may say, knew very early on about the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. You said you didn't tell everybody to go out with the early details, but you had the details before anybody else that I know of in the entirety of the media, and got all of them right. So everything that you were hearing before it was reported anywhere was accurate. Let's just start with this. From a security standpoint, I had to say, look, at least this time, shots didn't get fired at the president,
Right.
didn't get hit, and the Secret Service seemed to fire a lot faster than they did in Butler, Pennsylvania. But I mean, Butler was basically catastrophic failure. They just got lucky the president wasn't killed.
Right.
In this case, how do you assess the security, what went down, failures, things they did right? Walk me through it.
Yeah. So I was getting my information from people in the sheriff's office. I've been down here in South Florida 20 years. I have a pretty good network of sources. And I had told everybody, like you say, Buck, initially, look, take this with a grain of salt. I'm just hearing it. Let's let it unfold. So, people were asking, let me kind of delve into what I think has been the wrong question being asked when we talk about some of the shortcomings or how this bad guy was able to set up for 12 hours. We're going to get back to that. People said, well, how did he know Trump was golfing? Well, that's not really the question, because when you've been down here in South Florida long enough, you realize whenever Trump is at Mar-a-Lago, he's at that golf course every Saturday and Sunday and some weekdays. That really becomes his office. I've actually had lunch there with him. I was invited to lunch with him when he was president. And that's where he does business on the golf course, political business. He has friends and allies. Then he goes into the sports bar area of the club and has brunch. And again, he holds meetings at tables there, one or two tables that he puts together. So knowing he was there, that's a no-brainer. People line up on the roads leading up to that golf club to wave flags and to greet the motorcade. The bigger question is, the more important question, how was the bad guy able to set up a sniper's hide on the property for 12 hours? And I think that's where we need to start analyzing the shortfall and the shortcomings. So we've heard these statements from Rick Bradshaw, the Palm Beach County Sheriff, and Secret Service. Well, because he's only a candidate or a former president, he's not entitled to the same level of protection. We saw our good buddy Dan Bongino, former Secret Service, put out the Secret Service treats this as what's called an OTR, an off-the-record event. It's not a scheduled event. Well, that's kind of crazy. And I think that was Dan's point as well, in that they know he's at the club every weekend when he's in Florida. He was shot in the head 2 months ago. Why are they still treating this so casually? So that's the question. How was this guy able to set up for 12 hours? I mean, Buck, canines. Where were the canines? Trump owns large properties. Mar-a-Lago, the golf club, another golf club in Jupiter. A lot of acres to cover. A canine is incredibly effective and incredibly inexpensive. So it seems to me the ball was dropped by law enforcement, especially the Secret Service, because they have incident command yet again. And the results, again, could have been deadly, really, but for the grace of God.
Now, the fact that the gunman was able to get away after Secret Service engaged with four, have they clarified? It was 4 to 6 rounds. Was it with a sidearm? Do we know at what distance? That's one thing that I've never heard. Have we gotten any details on that?
I haven't seen, I've heard conflicting reports, anything from a 10 to 50 yards. I've consistently heard 4 rounds, but again, like you say, 6 has been the narrative. What I heard from law enforcement was anything 10 to 50 yards, and I've consistently heard 4 rounds fired. But you raised a good point with your question. Where was Palm Beach Sheriff's offices and the Secret Service's chase vehicles?
Yes.
What your audience probably doesn't know, maybe they do, maybe some don't. The bad guy was apprehended. Ruth was apprehended by Martin County Sheriff, set up near the highway. He wasn't apprehended immediately after fleeing the property. Now, for geographical reference, Martin County is the county just north of Palm Beach County. It's about a 15 to 20-minute drive from the club on a good day without traffic. So pretty close by. Those two agencies coordinate quite a bit. The border county to the north, but their deputies caught the bad guy. It wasn't Secret Service. It wasn't Palm Beach Sheriff. So a lot of questions need to be asked there as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's an obvious need for enhanced security measures for Trump between now and Election Day, John.
Sure.
What do you think are the chances that actually happens? It feels like, people say, oh, he should go private. He needs Blackwater. It's not called Blackwater anymore, but something along those lines. And my understanding is you're not operating overseas in a war zone. So if you're just going to try to go private, unless they're going to be deputized by the feds or something, you're talking about having to run through all kinds of hoops and laws. Secret Service can carry whatever they want, have whatever tools they want. Your private security guys, I just feel like that's not necessarily the answer, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, what the Secret Service has said over the last couple of days is now they're affording Donald Trump presidential level security. And so he's going to have the same security he had while he was in office. The other issue, so I'm not adverse to private contractors, former tier 1 and 2 special operators in a limited capacity at the private properties. But you correctly point out federal agents can carry firearms anywhere in the United States. And there are international compacts where they're able to carry globally when they're with their protectee. The private guys won't have that. They won't have those privileges. The other thing they won't have is direct access. U.S. Secret Service has its own intelligence division. They have an integrated communication system, those earbuds. The private guys probably wouldn't be given access to that. So as well-trained as they might be, whatever their experience might be, they'd still be kneecapped a bit by the lack of access to communications, intel, and the ability to carry weapons as broadly as the Secret Service can.
And I mean, going forward, I feel like the Secret Service in all of this obviously has taken a big reputational hit. I don't think there's any question about that. Really, I would say a lot more for Butler than this. I mean, the Butler thing, because the video of people saying, hey, look, there's a shooter up there. And the most obvious, in this case, they did find the guy before he was able to take shots. He was there for 12 hours, but Trump wasn't there at 1 a.m. So I don't think we can expect security to be camped out 24/7 anywhere Trump could possibly show up. Although, I don't know what they're going to. It's difficult, right? Because to your point about the West Palm golf course, I remember this from back in the CIA. You're most vulnerable when you can be analyzed by pattern, right? When you're setting patterns.
Exactly right.
That's when the bad guys can set up on you. This is why a lot of the time people who know what they're doing will go after people in the morning when they're groggy and their routine is most consistent, right? This is just, if you read enough spy novels or whatever, you'll see that's people are moving slower, doing what they do, leaving at the same time to get to work, leaving at, but the golf course thing, to treat this as you mentioned, our friend Bongino said it's off the record movement. It's off the record unless you're in the Florida area and everybody knows that he goes there all the time, right? So I do think they probably have to up the security there going forward. You're saying they're going to give him presidential level security, so maybe that handles some of it. But it just feels like, What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Buck, you raised a couple of great points, right? So the presidential level security, that's going to certainly increase the size of the bubble and the intensity of the bubble, the amount of agents, the proficiency. We'll probably see more full-time Secret Service around Trump and those Homeland Security investigation supplemental agents because of the manpower issues on the outer skirts of the bubble. But let me say this. I still can't reconcile and I can't excuse why nobody did an advanced, thorough perimeter search before Trump arrived there. Now, that said, Trump doesn't make the Secret Service's life easy because he is a creature of habit, right? He wants to go. I get it. It's his club. He's comfortable. I don't golf, but people say it's an outstanding golf course. He owns the place. I get why he wants to go there, but he has set a rock solid pattern for a bad guy to follow on the weekends. I mean, you can't miss his motorcade, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's time for him to start choppering in and out, taking a helicopter in and out. But that said, why was nobody tasked with an advance of the property in those 12 hours? An hour before he got there, a half hour before. That, to me, is another massive failure like Butler. Let's
talk about politics here in the Kamala campaign in just a second. But first up, our sponsor is Bear Creek Arsenal, and it's time to gear up for hunting season. Bear Creek Arsenal has you covered with a new firearm at an unbeatable price. It's awesome. Their AR-15 platform, for example. John, Bear Creek has fantastic uppers, and so people can switch them out and change out the caliber on their AR platform so they get multiple uses multiple different approaches they can have to that AR platform. And you're just not going to find anything better in terms of price and quality when you're switching out your upper than you will with Bear Creek Arsenal. You can change your 5.56 upper to a 350 Legend, and then you're ready to hunt. AR-15s, as we know, super customizable. And when you see the different uppers and the different tools that are available to you from Bear Creek Arsenal, you're going to say, this is for me. Bear Creek Arsenal has tons of customizable complete uppers for less than $300. High quality, very accurate. You can depend on them 100%. I love my Bear Creek Arsenal AR. Their new Grizzly handgun is better than many of the other handguns you'll see out there for triple the price. Use coupon code BUCK for 10% off your order at bearcreekarsenal.com. Don't wait. Go to bearcreekarsenal.com today. Go check it out. So, John, my feeling on the Trump-Kamala showdown here is Trump is going to win because he has to win because Kamala is so awful that it's inconceivable that she will win. Now, I understand that's more of an emotional analysis than a numbers analysis. I could do the numbers analysis, too. How do you see this right now?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, anecdotally, I haven't spoken to anyone, even former New York City Dems, friends of mine that I grew up with, who think she's remotely competent and who are willing to take a chance on her. Now, I'll tell you something that really encouraged me, especially about Pennsylvania, where I was concerned, and it's these numbers with regards to the Teamsters. Almost 60% of Teamsters, members of the Teamsters Union, picked Trump over Kamala when polled internally by the union. So that to me says Trump firmly has the white working class voters of all races, right? Teamsters, they're not necessarily an overwhelmingly white organization. So I think among the working class voters, Trump will win. Trump will win easily. I think we're seeing a big swing in Jewish voters toward Trump because of the Democrats' abysmal response to the Hamas attacks of last October 7th. But will the diehard Dems and will those moderates and independents who vote on feelings, not policies, those orange man bad people, will they get a temporary bout of common sense and put country before feelings? I don't know, but I'm with you. I think as we sit here today, he should and I believe will win the election.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just the strategy. People can generally argue about what a political strategy may be, right? Is it really just heavily focused on the heartland and economic messaging, or is it more of a national security border with an economic twist? Whatever, right? People can have their opinions, talk about this all day long. The Kamala strategy, objectively, from her campaign, is don't let people see who Kamala Harris really is and what she really believes. Because they've done 7 interviews since she became the nominee between her and Walz, 7 total. And Trump and J.D. Vance have done 70-something.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more clear could they make it that this is just, it's like they're trying to scam the voters. Kamala doesn't believe anything she used to believe. Vote for her, and we're not going to have her tell you anything.
Yeah. Well, Buck, I was raised a middle-class child. And
yes. You were unburdened by what has been, John?
I was unburdened by what has been. I mean, that is, we started this meme campaign as a tongue-in-cheek joke about her being born as a middle-class child, but it's literally her answer to everything. I've never seen anything like it. I haven't heard, and I'm not saying this as a matter of partisanship, I have not heard one intelligent or substantive answer out of Kamala Harris or Tim Walz. And I think most of America is starting to feel the same way. So I can't even comment on what her policies are because other than the most draconian left-wing policies, we're going to go into your home and make sure you're responsible with your gun, whether you like it or not. We're going to, cap the price of groceries and destroy the free markets. Other than that, I have no idea what the women's policy platform is.
I wanted to say our sponsor this half hour is IFCJ. As we approach the 1-year mark of the horrific terrorist attack of October 7th in Israel, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews invites you to join them in Flags of Fellowship, an opportunity for Christians to remember the victims, honor the heroes, and pray for those still held hostage, and highlight the unwavering support of Christians for Israel and the Jewish people. On October 6th, thousands of Christians will be praying for those impacted by the war and planting flags across America to honor the victims of October 7th. Join us in letting the world know that Christians stand with Israel. Your generous donation today will not only provide a flag symbolizing your support in churchyards across America, but it will also support the fellowship's ongoing emergency efforts in the Holy Land. We cannot stay silent. We cannot stay on the sidelines as anti-Semitism spreads like wildfire. Israel needs you now. Support IFCJ.org is where you can go to stand in solidarity with the Jewish people. That's one word. The website is supportifcj.org. And one more for you, John. I just think it's
Sure.
This read has got me thinking about the operation that the Israelis. I know they, people who say, well, the Israelis haven't confirmed. The Israelis won't confirm any military or intelligence operation ever. That's just policy. It's the Israelis. Everyone is assuming around the entire planet it's the Israelis. This Hezbollah pagers and walkie-talkies, radios. Look, I come from an intelligence background.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of both historically and then, from my time learned a lot about what kind of stuff can be done. This is, I was going to say it's mind-blowing, pardon the expression. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I think you said it best on a text the other day with a group of our friends. You called it a legendary intelligence operation. I think that was the perfect. I mean, this is pretty remarkable, right? So having spoken to some guys in the intelligence community, special operations community, even they're saying, wow, one made a good point. He said, it could have been Israel could just have such solid embeds. They could have their spies and their assets embedded that they might have built all these devices, waiting for Hezbollah to order new ones because they knew what they were using, and simply swap them out before they were distributed because they've got deep embeds who are so effective. And so any way you slice this is going to go down as a historic intelligence win for Israel. I mean, this is things, you said this, right? You said, I'm really stealing your thoughts. Intelligence agencies will teach this for decades.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's,
phenomenal.
It is the most sort of complete in every sense, the intelligence, the technical expertise, the deployment, the operational security. It's an operation that, other intelligence entities around the world would say, if we could do this against our enemies, we'd be in a much better place. John Cardillo, everybody. John, always good to see you, man. And I'll be up in Fort Lauderdale soon. We'll hang out.
Absolutely, man. Dinner's long overdue. Good to see you, Buck.
Good.